Tonight on Frontline, they were just playing corporate hardball.
The company was growing, cash was flowing.
Squeeze and leverage suppliers.
But it got out of hand.
Cabinets stuffed with held checks covering up $10 million.
Kept sinking deeper and deeper and deeper.
Frontline correspondent Paul Solman investigates how one high-rolling entrepreneur and his loyal followers covered up one of the largest corporate frauds in United States history.
Fool the auditors.
Cooked the books.
Tonight on Frontline, how to steal $500 million.
Funding for Frontline is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you. This is Frontline.
With Great Talk Radio, 57 WKBN, Youngstown, Ohio. We get your opinions of Mickey Monus on WKBN. First, we go to Youngstown. What do you think about Mickey Monus? The guy was a hero in this area. Jim, you're on WKBN. Hello.
Yeah, Al Capone, Dillinger, Mickey Monus, they're all the same. I'll tell you what, he played Youngstown for a bunch of hicks from Mayberry. That's what I think.
I thank you. On WKBN to the east side. Sam, you're on Great Talk Radio. Hello.
I would like to say that the Monus family has done more good for this valley than any harm to this valley, and Mickey was trying to do the same. I think the books were cooked, and Mickey was not aware of the books being cooked.
What do you think of Mickey Monus? 782-8191 in Youngstown. That's 782-8191.
In Youngstown, Ohio, it's the fraud of the century. And they're still arguing as to how hometown hero Mickey Monus wound up losing $500 million of other people's money while building what seemed to be a retail empire, a discount chain called Phar.
I'd like to introduce at this time Michael Monus, the president of Phar, who brought us to 33 states from 0 to 300 stores.
Thank you, Carol. And having reached this 300 store, there's no stopping us now to being a national retailer and to having store in every major market across the country.
Mickey Monus, crook or classic entrepreneur, depending on your point of view.
The story of Phar is a tale of fraud, one of the largest in American corporate history. But it's also a modern morality play, in which previously honest people, hired more or less at random, sustained the fraud for years. We'll show you how they did it. But you'll have to decide for yourself as to why, and why they were allowed to carry on by everyone in a position to stop them, from investors to the board of directors to the auditing firm of Coopers & Lybrand. But maybe the best question to ask as you watch the fraud unfold is simply this: what would you have done had you been a part of the juggernaut that was Phar?
Some people in this world have one thing on their mind: deals.
In 1982, Monus opened his first Phar, a deep discount store that sold everything from prescription drugs to shampoo, all at unbelievably low prices. A key to low prices was power buying, Monus's catchphrase for loading up when suppliers offered rock-bottom deals, thus creating far more savings for cost-conscious customers. The prices were so low, competitors couldn't figure out how Phar did it. Monus looked like a winner to David Shapira, the Pittsburgh grocery executive who bankrolled the new venture and served as its CEO. Shapira had the credibility, Monus the gambling spirit. Strong sales at the first store so impressed Monus's bosses that a second store followed within 7 months. Within a year, there were 8. To help him build the new firm, Monus hired young men. Many of them lacked experience, but they made up for it in loyalty to the boss. To run accounting, he chose Pat Finn.
You could see yourself going after problems, challenging yourself, solving problems. In accounting, you work through a problem, there was a right answer and a wrong answer. Things were black and white. And And that's probably part of my personality. Things are black and white. Things are either right or wrong.
To Pat Finn, the ethical calls had been easy until he met Mickey Monus, a man with a brash exterior but an inspiring ability to create jobs and make money.
He had the ability to motivate all of his, everyone who worked for him to have that same type of fire and that same type of dedication towards farm work.
Monus used his growing reputation as a business prodigy to boost his hometown. He was often on the front lines at public celebrations, inviting people to believe in whatever enterprise he pushed, whether it was Farmore or a summer camp for local city kids.
He became almost like a cult figure. He really did. He was bigger than life. He was bigger than life. He could do no wrong. He had the Midas touch, however you want to say it. He was a very, very important person for the psyche of the Youngstown area.
Word of Monus' success spread quickly among local banks and investors, who in the recessionary days of the early 1980s were starved for fast-growing investment opportunities.
People looked upon Farmore as perhaps the greatest success story in the retail industry ever. I remember when Sam Walton from Walmart came out and made the announcement that the only company that he fears at all in the expansion of Walmart, his #1 competitor, is Farmore.
As it grew, Farmore found itself up against Walmart in mall after mall. In 1985, there were 12 stores. By 1987, 40. To win in the world of deep discount, you beat the other guy's price and hope to capture his customers. So, for the next 2 years, Monus committed Farmore to underselling Walmart. But the prices were so low, he began losing money in those stores. Pat Finn watched nervously as year by year the profit margins of the entire company eroded. By 1989, he realized Farmore now faced a loss of millions. Finn went to Monus with the bad news.
Mickey Monus was in a tough position. 5 years into running what had seemed a white-hot company in a sizzling industry, he was losing money. What were his options? He could announce the losses and risk losing his credibility, his credit, and quite possibly his company, or he could buy a little time by parking the losses temporarily and put more effort into improving efficiency, getting lower prices from suppliers, something that would enable him to turn a profit once again. Monus chose to buy time, according to his chief financial officer. Pat Finn states that when he brought the disappointing results to his boss, Monus simply crossed them out with a pen and wrote in higher numbers showing a profit. Now, this was illegal, but the report was mainly an internal document. Farmore was lying primarily to its owners.
According to Pat Finn, Monus continued to change the weekly financial reports for 4 months before entrusting the task to him. Monus refused to talk to us about this or any other issue, but Pat Finn gave us his account.
You knew you were doing something wrong, but you never understood how wrong. I think he helped me believe that, starting it for him, I was being a team ball player. Give him time and he'll fix the problem.
The true numbers were kept in a separate set of books called the subledger, and Farmore's accounting manager, John Anderson, was brought into the plot to keep track of the temporarily altered figures.
It was really a report that Pat Finn wanted to keep track of so he can see where everything was at and what, problems he needed to cover.
Finn had hired Anderson directly out of Youngstown State University, where this kind of accounting presumably was not part of the curriculum.
Pat Finn always had an aggressive approach to accounting, and call it aggressive or call it creative, that's the way it was done ever since I remember.
Now, losses can be parked for a while, but eventually they need to be covered with something tangible. By Finn's account, Monus set out to cover the shortfall by putting the arm on Farmore's vendors.
Merchandise sales Strawberry kiwi. Let me try that.
And you're beautiful.
Thank you.
The merchandise show, where retailers and vendors haggle over the price of, say, a year's supply of strawberry kiwi juice. For years, the name-brand vendors had the power here. But the success of huge deep discount chains like Walmart and now Phar had gradually tilted the balance. The chains were now big enough to muscle the suppliers.
They were certainly in a position to squeeze and leverage suppliers, no doubt about it. Everyone is under pressure to make sales. Here's a company that looked like it was going to be another Walmart.
Monus's inspiration was to squeeze upfront payments from vendors in return for not selling their competitors' products. He'd use these exclusivity fees to cover his losses.
They may have said to one company, we'll keep your line if you'll give us $500,000 or $1 million fee. And if they said no, they would go to the other company and give them the business.
They'd give them the business all right. Coca-Cola, for instance, paid Phar $10 million to keep Pepsi out of Phar for just 5 years. Vendors let themselves be strong-armed by a retail newcomer without ever wondering, it seems, if the Phar phenomenon was for real. Meanwhile, Phar accountants used the millions in exclusivity fees to help offset the losses they were hiding, which had now reached $18 million. But the fees were not enough. Phar wasn't Mickey Monus's only interest. He had invested in over a dozen other businesses and even had the moxie to take on the National Basketball Association.
Did you ever think you'd be a professional basketball baron here?
Always
when
a
you got
dream of mine.
Really?
Right.
Did you play ball?
Just in high school.
And how tall are you?
5'9".
5'9". So you could have made this league sometime if it was 20 years ago.
I don't think I have the quickness.
Okay, let's go back to courtside and jam.
Monus's World Basketball League had a hook. No player was taller than 6'5", and the 9 teams were located in smaller markets, in cities like Youngstown.
There's a lot of people who lose a lot of money in minor league sports. So, yeah, it was a challenge because he was going to, again, do something that nobody had done. He was going to be a success where others had failed.
As at Phar, Monus concentrated on image. He personally assembled the All-American Girls, a professional cheerleading squad which traveled from game to game throughout the country. He pushed a popular